Okay, hello to those who joined us right on time. My name is Nazia Hussain. I'm the product manager at the Institute of Sustainability Studies. Thank you very much for joining us for yet another Sustainable Action Dialogue Series webinar. This is a series where we bring you leading experts who distill the jargon that's often associated with sustainability topics. And we try to hold focused discussions on content that can really allow businesses and individuals realign commitment with action. And today I am delighted that you all are present for an exclusive webinar on an introduction to business sustainability with a focus on fast fashion. It's being delivered by our esteemed speaker, Pat Kane. Pat's a sustainability strategist, a speaker, a columnist to the Irish Tatler and Mums and Tots magazine. She's also the founder at Reuzi, a business that is involved that has evolved to become a whole hub of environmental living and awareness. Her mission is to inspire and empower individuals and businesses like those who've joined us today to drive a positive impact through a wide offering of sustainable products and educational services. She sits, of course, on the ISS faculty and has been very instrumental in developing modules within our STAR course, the Diploma in Business Sustainability. And I'm delighted that she's here with us today. Before I invite Pat to deliver the session, just a very simple housekeeping rule that we've got the comment section on LinkedIn available for you to drop any comments, any insights you have during the course of the session. And Pat will come around to answering your questions and commenting on what you leave as remarks on the comments dialog box towards the end of the session. So go ahead, leave your comments as we progress, and we'll chat with you towards the end. Over to you, Pat.
Thank you so much, Nadia. Hello, everyone. I'm Pat Kane. I was planning on introducing myself, but I think Nadia did a pretty good job there. I'm a sustainability professional. I've been working for almost a decade, I guess now, with all things sustainability, very much focused on sustainable living and sustainability in business. I'm the founder of reuzi, a platform where we offer products and services for those trying to do better when it comes, I suppose, to sustainability at home, as well as I'm a chief sustainability officer at Pragmatica, where we offer several different solutions for businesses of all kinds to green up their credentials and, just, I suppose, create that plan, trying to future-proof their business. So this is me, a little bit of my journey. I have a background in business, very much on commercial strategy, marketing, and customer experience. And obviously, after, I suppose, over a decade in business, I started my career in sustainability. So today I'm going to take you through the fashion industry. We're going to talk about fast fashion more specifically, as this is the goal of our 30-40 minutes. We'll talk about a few myths when it comes to sustainability and what's going on out there in fashion. We're going to try and bring you a few actionable ways for you to try and embed that sustainable thinking, that conscious thinking into your daily lives. And then we're going to wrap up with a few key takeaways, and then I'll open the floor for questions and answers, as Nazia mentioned. My personal motto and my business motto is the power of one, right? I strongly believe that each and every one of us can make a difference indeed with our actions, being it from the products we buy, the products we store in our fridges and our presses, all the way to the cars we drive, the energy we consume, the kind of holiday we choose to do, and so on. So I believe that every action counts, and that you as an individual, or even Ireland as a country, as part of the EU, we can make a big difference. We can create positive impact. Today, as I said, we're going to be covering the fashion industry, which is an industry that can be wonderful and fascinating and beautiful, but it can also be very, very dirty. Today, we know that the textile sector is responsible for approximately 10% of the world greenhouse gas emissions. That is, believe it or not, in and around, if not more, than global aviation together, which makes no sense because we're talking about clothes at the end of the day. And by 2050, experts estimate that percentage could increase, could even more than double, getting to a quarter of all emissions out there coming from that industry. That makes no sense if you ask me. The fashion industry is, as I said, a fascinating one, and it's so beautiful and brings so much joy and that sense of identity and all of that. Great. But at the same time, it creates a huge chain of waste, pollution, and so on. And not to mention labor that can be quite questionable depending on brands you're talking about. So every step of the way, you will see an impact when it comes to environment and potentially and sadly social impacts as well throughout that production process. When we talk about fast fashion, we obviously add an extra layer of concerns, an extra layer of, I suppose, challenges, because fast fashion was created really to deliver, I guess, results and novelty now, every day, every single second, novelty hitting websites and shops all around the world. And with that comes obviously very terrible consequences. For those who are not familiar, which I'm sure are not going to be many out there today, but fast fashion is all those bits of clothing and garments that are designed and produced in a very quick manner to supply the masses with novelty, with latest trends, and trends that, to be quite frank, the masses probably don't even know exist, but yet they're there being pushed, that sort of thing, which is not great. The term fast fashion was used back in the 90s in New York, in the New York Times, to describe Zara's business model of taking each garment from sketch to store in just 15 days. If you think of back then, we didn't really have a lot of that happening. It was very rare for us to come across a shop that could bring the trends from big fashion houses all the way to our shelves, and to our doors in our wardrobes, within 15 days, right? It would be very hard. I suppose materials were potentially better, clothes were potentially made to last that bit longer, and you wouldn't hear as much, I guess, and maybe that's because we were just not talking about that enough, but you wouldn't hear as much around abuse of labor conditions and all that. So that is when, I suppose, if we were to drop a pin on when this whole, area came to life, that's when we would be looking into. What are we looking for when we look at at fast fashion brands, I guess? We're looking at brands that can produce thousands and thousands of styles every so often, on a weekly and even daily basis. I have a few examples here, and again, we're not here to point fingers, I'm just stating facts, but we have a few examples of brands that do that very well today. These brands are also looking at most likely man-made materials like fibers, like your polyesters, your nylons, so very much fossil fuel-based, I suppose, fabrics. We're looking at brands that are producing clothes really quickly and clothes that are not necessarily designed to last. A lot of the production process has been outsourced in a lot of cases, I guess, to the point that you will probably have heard of sweatshops in Southeast Asia and other countries and other areas around the world where labor conditions wouldn't be, I suppose, top notch. One of the biggest problems today we have with fast fashion is overproduction. And I suppose before I get to this slide, obviously you can read as I go, but I think one of the big challenges we have with fast fashion today is that, people will turn and say, oh, but such and such brand is using now organic cotton, or they're recycling denim. And it's all great. These are good moves, absolutely. But we're still not addressing the biggest elephant in the room, which is overproduction. Yeah. No brand owner wants to hear about degrowth. I have a book here called Less is More, How the growth will save the world. And I would highly recommend you all to have a read if you can. But, you know, this book addresses exactly what I'm trying to say, which is, when are we going to have these hard conversations around when enough is enough? You know, right now, obviously, it's very hard for us to ask brands to consider the impact of that overproduction on our planet, because overproduction equals revenue, equals profits. And that ultimately is where businesses look at. That is the ultimate measure of success. I get it. I run businesses. I get it. I work with businesses 100%. But if we're not willing to address that, and in particular in the fast fashion industry, you know, this is a problem that's never going to go away, because regardless of how many organic cotton t-shirts you put out there, you know, if you're still producing thousands of new products daily, you're still overproducing. You're still putting, I suppose, our resources over extreme pressure. Human resources, natural resources, you name it. So I've listed here a few examples of big brands out there that today are producing an enormous amount of garments every year, every week, or even daily. I'm sure you've heard of Shein lately, the ultra fast fashion label, and their model was really to launch small quantities of each garment, test. If that works, they go to town, they really go and produce as much as they can. And that's obviously not positive. You end up creating that overproduction. You end up pushing for overconsumption, and you end up, at the end of the day, ultimately increasing the amount of waste hitting landfill. Because let's not fool ourselves. There's no way clothes that are not made to last are not going to end up in the bin. When it comes to the different brands I mentioned, you know, if you're to look at a period of 12 months, and this is just a research that was carried out by a university in America, you know, these are how many different items were listed through the website over the past year. It is a crazy amount of garments, of individual unique pieces, right? And when I say unique, it could be a t-shirt, but then hundreds and thousands of that t-shirt have been produced. It could be a pair of jeans, but then hundreds. So 1 million different items, but not in total, if you know what I mean. So overproduction is a problem. We're looking at environmental impacts. We're looking at extremely serious social impact, and we're looking at obviously that waste generation and that mindset that we are teaching mainly the younger generations to go with, a mindset of it's okay to buy one more, it's okay to just have that worn once and then discard. You know, it's that horrendous mindset that we are pushing, and we are not only pushing, but we are stimulating. The funny thing here is that there are 80 billion garments being produced every year around the world. However, there are 8 billion of us, and of those, over 70% will leave with less than $10 per day. So as you can see, the equation doesn't quite make sense, right? Who are the people buying so much? It's clearly not the folk leaving with less than $10 per day. So that's where I started to try and bring you into the conversation, because it's you and I. It's the folks with, you know, a few bob to spare. It's the folks with a job living in, you know, developed or in underdevelopment economies, you know, economies that are allowing us to go for products and garments that we do not want, we certainly do not need. Right now, around the world, the fashion industry creates obviously a lot of waste. And an estimate from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation gives us that every single second around the world, a rubbish truck filled with clothes hits landfill. Just as I'm talking to you here, we're talking 20 seconds, 10 seconds. Yeah, that's how many trucks have hit landfill with clothing items around the world. It's a lot, and it begs the question, right? Why? One, why are companies allowing that to happen? Two, why are consumers just doing it? Because it's cheap, really. And the last question, I guess, is like, when are we going to stop, and what will it take for us to stop? when it comes to sustainability in general, fashion or beyond, that to me is always the main question, is what will it take for us to stop, reassess, rethink, and, just try and live in a more conscious way? I don't have the answer to that question, unfortunately. I wish I had. I want to bust a few myths with you here, because I do hear a lot of questions around, oh, but sustainable fashion is expensive. Oh, but fast fashion is good because, I can't afford anything else than that. Well, let's talk about these sort of questions now. One of the questions I get, or comments I suppose I come across often, is that clothes get recycled anyways. Um, Recycling clothes is actually really difficult. It's expensive. You need to partner with specific companies that are able to recycle clothes. It's not just, a machine that we spin it around, turn into thread again, and here we go, we start a new garment all over again. It's not that straightforward. I've happened to have worked with a company last year who had partnered with an Italian business that was specialized in recycling clothing. And the whole process was not only laborious, expensive, but also we were looking at mileage, extra mileage to send the recyclables over to Italy. So absolutely not an ideal, I suppose, material for us to be recycling. Not to mention that a lot of those items will end up destroyed or else shipped somewhere else, if they get lucky, because they will probably really end up in landfill. So that is not a really good argument. It's not one that we should use to say, well, I'm okay, I will, go for this because I can recycle it anyways. No, it's not that straightforward. So much so that I'm sure some of you have come across that. It was all over social news last year, that donated clothes and unsold items were found in the Atacama Desert in Chile. Clothing and garments there being dumped every year in the desert, and the Chile people have absolutely nothing to do with our rubbish, yet they end up being, I suppose, sent all of those leftovers. And in here, there were incredibly known brands found around these piles. A simple Google around fast fashion, Atacama Desert, Chile, you will see what I'm talking about. It's not good, folks. Another argument here is that fast fashion provides jobs. Well, I invite you to take a minute to think about one country, one nation where people working with fast fashion in sweatshops have suddenly, I suppose their lives suddenly got better and they were left out poverty due to that job. It's almost like, I'm hungry. Well, eat some bread, or I'm hungry. Let's eat something nutritious. Yes, I could eat bread for the rest of my life, but I would probably be deficient in many vitamins and nutrients that, a human needs to, I suppose, live and exist and to be healthy and thrive. Same. Fast fashion jobs. They are jobs indeed, but they are very questionable jobs, I would say, in terms of how much they get paid, in terms of the conditions that people are working under. I have shared a few things on my social media today, a video of one of the ultra fast fashion brands and one of their factories. You wouldn't want to watch the video. People sleeping on the ground, eating in the middle of really a pile of rubbish. It's not good. So a job is a job, but I guess there are jobs and there are jobs, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Another argument that I'm constantly bombarded with is that, but fast fashion is an affordable system. And it might be affordable for us consumers, but someone is paying the price, right? Being it the producer of raw materials, I have there an example of cotton, or even the garment worker that will probably just be living in misery with the bare minimum for the rest of their lives. I would like also to say that, when we talk about fast fashion, we are obviously never talking to those about, those that can only afford to shop at a fast fashion chain. That is not the point. We're not here to point fingers. We're absolutely not here to condemn anybody. But the reality is, these are not the folks sustaining and, as a matter of fact, helping brands thrive and grow on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, because if you can only afford to shop at a fast fashion chain, and you can only afford to shop the bare minimum for your family, for yourself, you're probably not indulging every single weekend on something new for an event, or just because you feel sad, right? So I think that's a very disingenuous, I suppose, argument too. And that brings me to this point here, that criticizing fast fashion is classicist. Well, as I said there, inverted comma, the poor folks, they are not the ones helping that industry thrive. They're really not. And, I know I'm being a bit blunt here, but I think we need to call a spade a spade. And right now, it's you and I. It's those who can afford, who feel that retail therapy is a thing, who feel that, it's just a t-shirt, it's just a dress, it's gonna be fine, without really thinking where we are putting our monies and what sort of world we are creating by buying what we buy. So ideally, yes, we would have affordable options so everybody can afford, I suppose, garments, clothing for themselves and their families, without the consequences that those chains bring and potentially bring to our planet. When we talk of sustainable fashion, sustainable fashion immediately comes to mind, and people say, oh, expensive. But you know what? There are ways and ways of doing sustainable fashion. Indeed, you can go for sustainable fashion brands that are doing excellent work. But again, they will charge you the price for that. But there are other ways for you to do that too. You could mix that with so many other things. So first, let's talk about what sustainable fashion isn't. So it's certainly not about shaming others, and hence I just comment there. We're not here to point fingers. You know what you need to do. It's more about the decisions that we make when, just because we can, yeah, without really thinking. Sustainable fashion isn't about throwing away anything you already own. You might as well just look after those things and mind those things, make sure they last for many, many years to come. It's not about being perfect. I often say perfection and sustainability should not be used in the same sentence, because nobody's perfect. Certainly not spending all your money on sustainable brands. It's not boring. It's not beige. It's not only about buying pre-loved. And it's certainly not about continuing to buy lots of clothes, but from sustainable brands. We are here to buy what we need to create potential, a timeless wardrobe for ourselves in line with what we do, work-wise, or, our leisure time. It's not a matter of overconsumption, sustainable or not. I think that is the bottom line. And what sustainable fashion is, there's so much in there. So to get you a few examples here that would be my favorites, certainly you can rewear, right? That is very sustainable. You already have things in your wardrobe. Make sure you put them to good use. Don't wait for the good day to wear the good shoes. Just wear what you have. Buying secondhand is a fantastic way to approach fashion in a sustainable manner. Exploring charity shops, exploring websites. There are fantastic websites out there. I would be very happy to chat to you. Do connect with me after this. I'm happy to share lists with you and recommendations. They're incredible people doing great things when it comes to pre-loved fashion. It's certainly around researching brand values, ethos, and engaging with brands. In this day and age of social media, brands are more than ever engaging with us, are answering, are reacting to bad reviews, to good reviews. So, explore those things and try and figure it out where you are really going to spend your money, your hard-earned money. It's certainly around mending clothes, which is something that if we were in a room now, I would be asked anybody knows here how to mend clothes. Not many of us will be there, but there are places all over the country and beyond where mending is, is their business. I always use the zip yard as the example because they're across Ireland. And if you're not watching from Ireland, I apologize. And I'm sure we can find somewhere in your country. But here in Ireland, we have like a plethora of places that can fix clothes for us, can adjust, can upcycle, and create new things from existing pieces. Wonderful. And lastly, one of my favorite things here is special for, occasions and big weddings or parties or whatever it is renting. Renting in Ireland, again, is becoming a really big thing. We are seeing incredible businesses all over Ireland popping up, offering rental solutions for everyone. So again, if you are looking for something new to you, I guess, there are several ways one can do better. And I suppose choose better. So much so that this global pre-loved market is expected to increase by 3 times in a few years to come. So we are seeing the pre-loved market becoming a big deal. And because of that, we are seeing so many businesses. I do see so many businesses day in, day out, starting to look into that, trying to pivot, to use a word that's very 2020 of me, but trying to pivot into something new. Even brands that sell new clothes, trying to figure it out ways to, I suppose, embed that rental sentiment in there and figure it out, like, how can we maybe create a new revenue stream here for us, but also look after the greater good, right, of our planet. When it comes to rethinking fashion, I have a few ideas here for you, on how to become a more conscious consumer. And if you do run a business that is a fashion business, I suppose it's one to take into consideration as well. A few tips here on maybe even, having conversations with your clients, your customers, educating your staff on how to engage with that customer. Because at the end of the day, a customer experience that is genuine and where customers can actually see that the brand cares about me. They're not trying to sell. They are trying to sell, absolutely. We're businesses, but not for the sake of selling. They're trying to find me the best solution for my body shape, for my occasion, for whatever it is. That's very important. So if you do have a business, I think this goes to you too, and it's worth having a think about that. So we're looking at trying to care for what we already own, trying to rewear what we have, maybe pair up with different accessories to try and change the outfits here and there. We're looking for less is more. I know it's very hard at times. We can't really buy something really expensive, but if you stop to think, you would buy maybe one garment that will last longer than a cheaper garment. And at the end of the day, that cost per wear would make things worth. So maybe again, it's taking a step back, it's taking things into consideration and really thinking about your choices rather than just going for the first thing you see, adding to cart, checkout without really giving some time and consideration to whatever it is that you're after. There are other ways for you to look into sustainable fashion as well and, trying to become that more conscious consumer. We're looking at replacing, existing brands that were brands of choice, maybe for better brands, more sustainable brands, secondhand brands, secondhand businesses, or trying even to fix things, as I mentioned. Trying to remove is a very important word here. Trying to unfollow people who are bad influence when it comes to that sort of thing, that are promoting brands that do not align with your values. I think it's an important moment for us, and that goes into setting intention as well. It's asking ourselves, what are our values? Yeah, we all have core values. We all want to see this place, the world, thriving. We all want to see each other thriving, right? I'd say most of us anyways. Are your habits, your purchase habits, your consumer behavior, is that in line with your values? I think that's a moment where you need to think about it and taking that step back, unsubscribing, unfollowing, deleting apps, and all of that sort of thing. That plays a big part because you don't want to be bombarded by brands and people that are not in line with your core values. Yeah, I for one would have very strong values, and a no is a no. So if you're not aligned with my values, I don't think I would be supporting you or your brand. I think a big one for us, and I found these statistics and I thought I would share that with you, is, young adults today are the ones most affected by this whole fashion industry, pressure and stigma around repeating outfits and the need for new and more and, every day and every weekend. So as you can see there, a lot of young adults today feel very conscious about repeating clothes. If things are on social media or if they go out, they feel under pressure to have new. And why is that? That's a good question. I wouldn't have the answer, but I think it's a learned behavior. And, I'd like to remind you that a lot of the behaviors, from plastic consumption to fast fashion, all of those are learned behaviors. And because before we weren't like that. So it's all a matter of trying to support businesses that are trying to take us through a different path, yeah, rather than that crazy overconsumption, that need for newness all the time. Again, outfit rewearing is obviously not something to be conscious about. If these folks can repeat outfits, I'm sure we can too. And that's obviously just a little joke to illustrate, but you get the idea. And I think my key takeaways for you today, folks, would be to really rethink. I know I sound like a broken record here, but like it's taking that step back as a consumer and as a business. As a consumer, it's like, do I need this? Is this aligning with my values? If not, ditch it. As a business, am I doing the best I can to help my consumers with the best choice, or I'm just going for it regardless, not thinking about anything else but my bottom line? Valid, I get it. You're trying to build a business, but remember, everything you do will also have an impact on our society, on our environment. So it's trying to rethink. As consumers, we have too much. The ask here would be for you to use your money wisely and to really be kind to yourself. One small step is better than nothing. There's obviously that powering one that I talk about so much. So I think these are my messages for you today. We have a bit of time for Q&A here, so I'm going to open the floor back to Nazia.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Pat. I think that was an extremely insightful and a very eye-opening session. I think everyone who's joined has gained a much clearer understanding of that very complex role that fast fashion plays in global sustainability challenges. And of course, you mentioned and you shared some great ideas like renting clothes and normalizing repeating an outfit. But I think a lot of this also comes from a whole mindset change. There needs to be a shift into driving that idea that purchasing less and reusing is a regular practice, right? But at the same time, we're living in a world that sort of facilitates newness, right? And getting more and more and just filling up your closets. So could you shed some light on how that mindset change can be achieved? Because I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who are not even aware that they need to rethink their fashion choices. So how do we nudge them towards, say, the whole reusing and repeating an outfit idea?
Yeah, I think in my view, it's all goes back to, as I said, that value action gap, right?
Yeah.
So we all want things to be in a certain way, and usually our wants are very similar. We want to be healthy, we want to live in a fair world, a just world, and and by supporting certain brands, we're not really leaving our values, right? We are
Yeah.
actually going against those. So I think the first thing is really for you to sit back with yourself and have a think, like where do I shop today? Where, open your wardrobe, like where are those clothes from? Are you proud of where they come from? You can't be proud of every piece, let me tell you that. It's going to be very difficult. But the big ones, the important ones, the like, my favorite pieces, where are they coming from? And how are these, supporting the world I would like my children or my loved ones to live in? I think that's a conversation, it is really mindset. It really is taking that step back. I would say second and third, educate yourself, you know, try and follow, accounts or read or buy books or watch documentaries, whatever it is, try and educate yourself. The True Cost is a great documentary for people to watch. As I said, these book less is more, how degrowth will save the economy, save the world. It's a great book. So try and educate yourself on the challenges that, that humanity faces. This is the biggest challenge of our times. It's our planet. And then lastly, I would say it's really, question the brands that you are supporting, try and figure out what their ethos is and what their sustainability promise is, and just, keep them on their toes. You would think that you can't make a difference, but collectively, if we all chose to do that, wow, we would send a very strong message here, So I'd say that that's a good place to start.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, yeah, just being conscious consumers and asking for more, right? And making sure that people are not greenwashing their way through this. You mentioned, of course, less is more, right? A very powerful resource out there. But there's a question here from someone asking if there's suitable educational material on this topic for children, if any recommendations you have there.
Yeah, that's a tough one. All right. Like there's not much going on for children. There are books, and I can share the links with yourself, Nazi, if you want to share with the group afterwards.
Yeah.
There are a few books that would educate kids on consumption in general, and I would highly recommend. But when it comes to like documentaries and shows, and you don't see much of that right now, which is probably an opportunity there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's a comment there about how they've been following the rule of five challenge, where they're only buying 5 new items per year. And what are your thoughts about that? How tough can that be as a decision?
Listen, whatever works, there
Yeah,
is that, the rule of five. I love that. There is 30 wears, you don't buy something that you're not going to wear at least 30 times. There are
yeah,
different challenges. There's no buy challenge. So you buy nothing new for a year. So it's literally whatever works for you. It's almost like a diet or
yeah,
exercise routine, whatever
yeah.
works for you. One size does not fit all here.
Yeah, yeah. You also cover degrowth, right? And the challenges that come with moving away from overproduction. How do you think policymakers, especially, can address this challenge? If you see it from, like the national level, is
Yeah.
there a requirement for a policy shift as well?
Listen, there is something coming. There is something brewing. If you saw, I don't know if you all saw, but in France there was a bill that passed to charge fast fashion brands and a surplus, right? A tax, let's call it. So, and this is only the beginning, I would like to think, so from taxing brands that are basically overproducing, right? As we saw a few there, all the way to making sure that whatever their claims are, that they can back those claims. So we have the green claims code. Yeah, there was a big topic last year. So there is regulation coming. It's a bit slower than personally I'd like to see, but I think, our governments around the world, they are aware. It's now a matter of action, but certainly
Yeah.
regulation will play a big part on that.
Absolutely. There was another question just around the most common resources that are depleted by fast fashion industry, and what are some of the effective strategies that you can use to mitigate those impacts?
Yeah, so the most I suppose used resources would be, of course, we're looking at soil, we're looking at water, we're looking at energy, you're looking at any sort of fossil fuels involved in transportation. So shop local if you can, shop like not man-made materials, so natural materials if you can, once again. But again, if local to you means a second-hand shop selling a non-natural material, that's fine too, because that's already there.
Yeah,
The worst thing we could be doing here as consumers is to shop things from very far, far away that will come on airplanes and boats and whatnot, made by probably someone who shouldn't be making clothes under facilities that are not, great. So shop local, shop like natural fibers if you can, organic fibers, and I suppose, secondhand rules first, I suppose.
Absolutely. There's another comment coming in about just clothes swapping and how that's a great initiative, right? They're from Ireland but live in Netherlands, and they've just found the whole idea of clothes swapping a lot of fun. And I agree
I
with that. Yeah.
I love that. And, clothes swapping can begin simply as a WhatsApp group where when everybody or when yourself or your friends have something to pass to someone else, take a picture, send to the group, anybody interested, I'm swapping this. And then you start, and it could be a super event as well,
Yeah.
So absolutely, absolutely. I love that. Love that.
Yeah. I think personally for me, what's worked is I have an older sister, right? So I have just one passed on clothes for years now, right? So every time I'm wearing something that she's passed down, she's just like, nice clothes, Nazia. And I'm just like, well, it's yours. Of course you're gonna like them. But I think that's the idea, right? That you
And even
don't
for
think of,
children. For
yeah,
children, I like to
absolutely.
say that my sister-in-law has opened a Black Sack boutique, which is basically her kids' clothes that come to my kids that are younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, absolutely swapping. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, yeah. Great, Pat. I think that was very, very engaging and insightful, and we've just
Thank
hit the mark for this session. So I'm going to wrap up if there aren't any more questions. But of course, we can keep this conversation going. The recording for this session is going to be available on the ISS website, and we'll allow you to drop all kinds of questions and comments on that once the recording is up. So this discussion doesn't end with this session. Now is the time to ask more questions and keep that conversation going. So thank you to everyone who's joined us today. And of course, huge shout out to Pat for today's session.
thank you.
There'll be many more webinars and sessions such as this that we'll be hosting in the future. So I encourage everyone to keep an eye out on the ISS website and on our LinkedIn page. And we look forward to seeing many of you join us for our next few sessions. Thank you, everyone. And thanks a lot, Pat.
Thank you.